Hey guys, it's M.A.D.D.Y. I don't know, but today we are back with GO! My favorite sports team, and fucking finally, we're gonna finish with Tyler's fucking story of when he played sports, because I'm actually very curious for the so-called master's degree of sports when we have not even seen this so-called master's degree. You know, my mom is getting her bachelorette, and I think she's almost done. And when she's done, she's gonna get a certificate and she's gonna put it on the wall. I'm gonna show it all to my friends and be like, my mom's a doctor, technically. But can't Tyler say the same thing? No, I didn't think so. Unless he reveals this so-called document to the world, which he probably will, but probably won't. Time will tell. I'm sorry. But on all seriousness, I am actually very curious of what this so-called master of sports has to say about sports when we don't know what he did as sports. We know he played sports, like basketball and wrestling, but that's about it. And from what I can remember, I don't even remember what he said in his previous part, because that's how long it's been. It's been that long, Tyler. Too long. Long enough that I don't even remember what you said in the previous episode of your life. What about that? What about that? Alexa, play Go, my favorite sports team.
Playing Go, my favorite sports team from Spotify. Here's the latest episode, Tyler's Sports Life, Part 2.
To Go, my favorite sports team, the episode that you guys have been waiting for.
Yes!
For all your life.
You know you've wanted it. You've been thinking about it every single day.
I have.
Yes, it's true. It's time for Go, my favorite sports team, to return the interrogation of this so-called man named Tyler.
Thank you!
Is he really who he says he is?
You wait until you call. Oh, the accused. J'accused, I must say.
You sit right there and you think about what you've done your entire life, because that's what we're going to be talking about.
It's time for Tyler's Sport Life Part 2. But where are we, and who are we, and how did we get here? My name is Markiplier, and I'm here talking up a storm about sports today, taking over the hosting seat of this humble little podcast here that we call Go. And joined today in the accusation stand is, what's your name?
Pretend like this is a thicker piece of paper and not a napkin.
Mr. Tyler.
Tyler.
Shit. Introduce yourself. State your name for the record.
Oh, I can talk now?
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Tyler Scheid. I'm
Shit.
I'm Tyler Scheid, not Shid. Not shit either. Scheid. I have a master's degree in sport administration. I'm the so-called expert, but I am the master of sport on this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been friends with Mark since 4th grade. And I don't know what else to say.
Well, you don't have anything else to say because I haven't prompted you. And it's funny that you mentioned 4th grade, because 4th grade is where we left off in your life.
Oh, we
but
did?
I do have to say something before we get started. I have many things to say before we get started. How dare you, number one.
What?
How dare you?
What?
Every one of these other people that have been a part of this podcast, me, Bob, Wade, we don't have a part 2. We got it all done in part 1. How do you think that you're oh so special? Oh, I'm Tyler Shit. I just get a 2-parter here, because that's how amazing my life is. What do you have to say?
Maybe I'm just the better interviewer, so I get through the actual process of the whole thing in one go, as opposed to you.
Or you don't interview good enough.
Or
and I'm just too good at it.
Or my sports knowledge is just that much larger and that much more experienced than everybody else that has been interviewed so far.
Okay, all right. Well, that's fantastic. But I'm not the only one who is absolutely livid with you.
Oh,
There's other people on the internet that are incredibly furious and completely justified in their fury.
all right. Sure, I will be. I feel like I should be the judge of that.
No.
Oh,
Anyway, Skidmark Generator asks, "Good evening, Mr. Tyler, if that is your real name. I've enjoyed listening to your esteemed podcast for the last year and have found it to be quite educational. However, upon this day of Sunday, the 15th, I was delivering pharmaceuticals betwixt the hospital rooms and was so mortified that I nearly dropped my bupivacaine. I think we all know what that is.
yep.
How dare you center the most recent episode about snowboarding? I do enjoy the historical segment of these videos, and as such it makes sense to start from the ancient beginnings of the sport. But no! You seem to favor the brutish savagery once called snurfing over the elegant, gentle, and beautiful sport of downhill skiing. How dare you make the art of skiing a side mention now and again while covering the crime of snowboarding in complete detail. Have you any idea how greatly the youths of the day mar the name of the winter sport with their winterized skateboarding? I thought I knew you better than this. As a fellow person of French heritage, I curse thee that thou baguettes be as hard as the toughest stone, no matter how freshly you may purchase them. Sincerely, Monsieur Skidmark Generator.
First off,
Whoa! You gotta let that
First
land.
off.
That was a good jacuzzi. We haven't had a jacuzzi that spicy in a long time.
no, that was a great. That was a great jacuzzi. But first off, I need to point out, I'm not French.
No, that's not true at all.
I'm not French. Anyway, beside that point, skiing was not a aforementioned sideshow upon the snowboarding episode. It was mentioned distinctly and with purpose at certain points. And if you even remember at the very beginning when I talked about the invention of the snurfer, it was two skis put together. Therefore, showcasing in clear detail that skiing came first. Also, I am a skiing aficionado myself. I enjoy the skiing. I partake in the skiing. I've been skiing up and down hills since I was 3 years old. So
That's not true because in the Tyler Sport Life Part 1, it was never mentioned, and we went
you didn't
chronologically.
ask the question about sports. But the point is, in today's day and age, snowboarding has surpassed skiing in popularity. It is more commonly seen and looked upon on YouTube and beyond. Snowboarding actually lent itself to advanced skiing to start doing park skiing. So, I focused on snowboarding first. So what? It made sense in my head, and it made sense to do that because it appealed to a larger audience in the aforementioned episode.
So Tyler's trying to pursue viewers and listeners over actual quality of content. I understand that.
No.
I understand your anger. And it's not that skiing was a side note. It was just small snippets strewn about randomly in the episode. Very different from side note.
Skiing requires a little more studying and detail because there is a longer history. Snowboarding is more recent.
I'll give you some history. Do you know what country likes skiing the most, Mr. Aficionado?
Likes skiing the most?
Yeah.
It's definitely like Sweden or Norway.
It's France, Mr. Frenchman. And that proves that Tyler is French. It's been proven, undisputed champion of the ski world, Mr. Frenchman Shide. Although he betrayed his own people in doing a snowboarding episode, I just want everyone to really remember that and confront him about that many times. Anyway, with that excellent...
Germany has the most skiers.
No, I said likes.
Oh, France is second.
The undisputed champion of the world of skiing is undoubtedly France. Its many resorts are easily accessible and the most popular European winter holiday destination in the world.
Okay. Explains because of the French Alps.
Yes, exactly.
That makes sense.
Where we last left off with Tyler's Sport Life was a little game called Foursquare. Or it was a multitude of games that took place on the in school recess, but this took place on the blacktop where recess happened, and there was Foursquare, and there was a little game that they created called Wink Wink Nod Nod. And if you remember what we discussed there, you can go back and listen to the episode. But it was a game that centered around an extreme sequence of bullying. And now I think I want to name this chapter. It's not chapter 1. We'll call it 1A. Because it's part 2. We'll call it 2A. Chapter 2A. To be... What?
To be or not to be?
Shut up. Shut up. Just because those letter and number need to be said does not need to be quoting Shakespeare. God, you really are French, aren't you? Anyway, so Tyler the Bull.
I was not the bully. I was
Tyler-
the bullied.
Tyler the Bully. As I've heard many times, I don't remember experiencing myself, but it must have just because I was not within the reach of his wrath. His giant wingspan didn't come out and smack me in the back of my head. Why were you such a bully at such a young age? And especially pertaining to your sports.
All right, first of all, I was a bully, but not in the way that you were painting me
He
out
confessed
to be.
it, everyone. He confessed
He
it.
confessed!
I beat up all but 2 kids in kindergarten.
He beat up every kid but 2. How can you say that as if it's a good thing?
I never said it was
You
a good
literally
thing.
said you beat up every kid but 2.
Yeah, Wade was one of the kids I didn't beat up. He was taller than me.
How much taller? How tall was he in kindergarten?
He's been tall like his whole life.
Boom, 6'4".
No, but him and George were in my kindergarten class, and I didn't beat them up. I just had this thing where if somebody got in my way, I just moved them out of my way.
Okay.
So I got in trouble a lot in elementary school because it was just like I wanted to do what I wanted to do, and if somebody got in my way, I just kind of did what I wanted to do.
Interesting. Almost like you took care of the problem. You got a problem, you just gets in your way, you just gotta moves it out of the way.
Yeah, yes.
Preferably into the nearest lake.
Yeah, yes.
Shoes. Is that what you're talking about?
Sure, why not?
He
I definitely
confessed.
did.
He
that.
confessed!
He's confessing to
That
everything.
is
Confessing!
not what happened.
Okay, but 4th grade, you're saying you weren't a bully?
It started wearing off by then. I got in plenty of trouble before then, and I didn't really start doing that. And actually going into like 5th grade and 6th grade, I kind of stopped. But the high school principal knew me when I was in elementary school
Why?
because of how much I got in trouble.
Did the middle school principal know you?
Yeah.
Did the junior high principal know you?
Yes.
Did the high school principal know you?
Yes.
Well, that's pretty damning evidence, everyone. I think he...
Hold on. The director of my college also knew me.
Oh, God!
Oh my lord!
Bully, everybody.
I wasn't.
He was a collegiate bully.
No.
Brought bullying to a new level.
Why? How does this have to do with my sports?
What do you mean? It's everything to do with sports. Because sports are what build up these habits of competitiveness. And I think it's the competitiveness that's spilling out into the rest of your life, right?
I mean, competitiveness does spill out in the rest of my life.
So what sport were you playing in 4th grade?
Baseball, wrestling. Yeah, no, because I didn't switch to basketball until like 6th grade.
Were you winning a lot?
Yeah.
Were you winning as much as you wanted to?
No.
There we have it, the source, the motivation, the rage building up inside of him from all of these losses.
Listen, I acknowledge my bullying past and how awful I was to some people in my past, but I also want to point out that I own that, and it helped shape me to who I am today, to the point to where I try not to do that. And I go out of my way to help those situations, because more often than not, the bully is also undergoing some sort of pain and turmoil.
So you're the victim.
I'm not saying I'm the victim.
Okay.
I'm saying that to understand how a person works, you need to look beyond their actions sometimes to understand why they may be thinking that's what they should do.
Which is why we're exploring this. So let's look beyond the actions themselves. In 4th grade or growing up and going, because this is important because you're about to hit puberty.
Yeah.
Eventually here in a few years, you're going to hit puberty, and that does have profound changes on the human body in general. And sometimes it can showcase itself in terms of a boost of testosterone and anger and residual rage. But you weren't really a bully after puberty.
No.
You wouldn't say that, right?
No.
So why this childhood rage was building up inside of you? Is it just like the unfettered competitive spirit?
I don't think so. I think it came down to a couple of things, because my dad told me this. I used to be this happy-go-lucky, super kind kid, and then I went to school. That's literally what he said.
I see.
And then something happened when I went to school. I don't remember exactly what it was, but something created like this kind of mean streak in me. I didn't want to be there. I didn't enjoy being there. I think there was a level of like I was getting picked on, because I distinctly remember in 4th grade we had show and tell, which was very common, and I brought in my 2nd place in the city tournament wrestling medal. And there was a kid who I consider a friend of mine who was like, "That's fake. That's your dad's. You didn't do that." And it was like, "No, like I did. And that's my accomplishment." So in the eyes of my peers, a lot of my accomplishments and a lot of my abilities were diminished. And then also, I know in first grade, I was really good at math. I always had a math aptitude, and I'd raise my hand all the time to answer the question. I would never get called on it. And so I would eventually just blurt out the answer because I'd get annoyed that other people weren't answering. Nobody else wanted to answer, but I wouldn't get picked. And so I got kicked out of class a lot. So teachers kind of like shoved me to the side, considered me a disturbance, considered me an annoyance. And I think that probably built up some of the tension that I had with relation to my peers as well. So maybe there's a competitive nature. Maybe it was just like I felt on the outside. I felt like I didn't belong. And there was a level of that at home. I was always distinctly different than my brother, my mom, and my dad. So much so that my mom worked really hard to like try and understand me. But like the way my brain works, and I think we've discussed this before in the past, is just different. How I process things and how I have to do things in a different order that makes sense to me for me to understand something, whereas to a lot of other people it's just like, no, this makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. So it comes from a pattern of being dismissed.
Yeah.
You're either your accomplishments or your ability or your potential being dismissed.
And so maybe it was like trying to showcase that I was capable in that and trying to get attention.
Okay. What this does reflect, though, is a source of confidence. You do have a confidence in yourself, just other people can't see it, so you have to show them exactly what you can do. Whereas a lot of people probably could say in their childhood they did not have confidence. And this is important because going into the future of your sport life, to jump ahead a little bit, a lot of it comes from just this desire to prove yourself, to prove your ability to do something, even if people are saying you can't do it, because only you know your limits, or only you can find your limits. You may not know your limits, but everyone out there has not found them yet.
Yeah.
But we haven't gotten there yet. We got glorious puberty right around the corner. Tyler's balls are about to drop. Plunk, plunk. So, we're going to skip ahead a little bit because it was boring in his childhood. It was stupid. It was a dumb little kid. Now, we're still a dumb little kid. But let's call 6th grade. This is going into junior high school. Well, 7th and 8th is junior high school. Let's go junior high school.
Okay.
This is all of the kids that think they're about to go into the adult world, but they're nowhere near it. They don't even realize how close it is. But the one thing I remember from junior high that was so life-changing, that just like destroyed my perception of reality. I hated everything about it, and I couldn't understand why it happened. Recess.
Oh, yeah.
Recess was suddenly abolished, and they never explained why. They did not explain why. I got to 7th grade, I'm like, where's recess? And they're like, never. You gotta stay after school if you want to play. And I'm like, but I don't want to be in school. And they're like, that's too bad, ain't it? But why did they get rid of recess?
I don't know. I honestly think recess was such an invigorating thing growing up. Having that break and having physical exercise and then going back and having class.
Yeah.
It allowed you to release that energy, and you got to spend time in the actual like center of the day when the sun is up and it's warm out and it's fun. Even when it was cold out, we had recess.
Yeah, it was just nuts. And I know what people are going to say is they replaced it with gym. Because they didn't really have gym in middle school and whatnot, right?
They had it in middle school, but it was... Yeah, we didn't have it in elementary school.
But it was more of an emphasis on gym. And then high school definitely had more extracurricular classes. Like, what was it called? Outside sports or something like that?
Outdoor rec, yeah.
Outdoor rec, yeah, that was it.
No, we definitely had gym in elementary school too, but it was like once a week.
Yeah, it was not emphasized. And I think it's like building up team building and stuff like that. But for me, as a student, I did not perceive of the sporting world, really, until junior high came around, and it was like a removal of this play to this competitive world of sports. Because when you get to junior high, suddenly, especially in terms of football and baseball, you actually have games that more people will go to, more people of the community. What were your sports in this era of your life?
Okay, so wrestling was one of them. I was playing baseball. In fact, my team, we were one of the best teams. We would have went to the city tournament, but because half of our team were soccer players and soccer season started up, we didn't go to the city tournament. So like my main sports were those two. I think I played a little bit of basketball. That was when I tried out for the school team, because that was the other thing, is you started having tryouts for sports. So they were more highly selective of who would be on the team. And I distinctly remember this, because I was pretty good at basketball. I wasn't great. I couldn't dribble the best or anything like that. My size and my ability to jump and get rebounds and just kind of out-muscle some people. And then my defensive ability was outstanding. But during tryouts, because I was like, well, if I make the basketball team, I'm not going to wrestle again. Because I had stopped wrestling briefly in like 6th grade and played basketball. And so I tried out for the team 7th grade. And the last drill on the last day of cuts, was dribbling around cones. And I asked them, I was like, can I dribble left-handed? No, you have to dribble right. I'm left-handed. So I had to dribble with my off hand in a drill that everybody was dribbling with their strong hand. And I distinctly believe that I got cut because of handist bull.
I think that if you would have just dribbled with your left hand, they wouldn't have noticed. It's kind of one of those things where, like, did you notice the dancing bear? It's like, they're not going to call you out. They're just going to be like, oh, he's dribbling really
But
good.
me, as 7th grade kid, who wants to be very coachable, because that was something my dad and all of my coaches instilled, is you listen to the coach, you're very coachable. That's how you play. You're a team sport.
Yeah.
You know? And so I did it, and I got cut. And I distinctly remember Leonard, who also was left-handed, also got cut that same day.
Interesting. Did they, like, get a megaphone there? They're like, you must be right-handed. If you pass to a left-handed player, the game's over. That can't happen. No, nay, I say.
So I didn't play basketball because that's why I was wrestling. I mean, growing up, I did swim lessons and stuff, but I never swam competitively. I started playing water polo in 7th grade. There was spring water polo, and my brother was a freshman in high school, and he swam competitively, and he was on the water polo team, and so there was a spring intramural water polo where you just played against the same kids in the school. So I started playing water polo in 7th grade.
Okay.
And I think those were my main 3 sports.
All right, but let's dwell on the failure some more. So you failed. You didn't make it to the basketball team. You got cut.
Yeah.
That had to hurt. How many people did you beat up after you found out about that?
None.
None that we know of?
None.
None, period?
Period.
What happened to the rage?
It didn't have anything to do with the competitive nature.
Did you kill anybody?
I was disappointed. I was upset. I didn't kill anybody. I didn't beat anybody up.
Did you cry?
Yeah. To be completely honest, I did.
Aww.
It was at home, not in public.
My
but...
laughing feels mean now. He cried! Anyway, but, okay, so you didn't beat anyone up?
No.
Not a single person?
No.
Not one?
No.
Not even a mean word? Not even a hey nerd and shoving it off?
No.
Not even a ruffle, give a wet willy?
Like 7th and 8th grade, I was mostly quiet. I wasn't mean to many people.
Interesting. So was some of that confidence that you had as a kid starting to crumble a bit?
Yes.
Really? And what was that?
For one, I almost failed out of English class.
Ah, interesting.
My parents always had a rule that if we got a C, we were grounded.
Oh.
So the reason being, and this is why I was okay with it, was, and I talked to my parents about it afterwards, is it's like the only way me and my brother should be getting a C in class is if we're not doing the work.
Yeah, of course.
Like, we're capable of getting those grades, so we should get those grades. It's not because we're not smart, because we just weren't doing the work.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I focused on baseball. I was really good at baseball, and I wrestled, and I was okay at wrestling. I always wrestled better against people that I knew. I was wrestling against you around that time.
Yes.
We were close to the same weight class. This was when actually me and you started becoming better friends. Like, we knew of each other for a long time.
Yeah.
But during the meets and everything was when we would talk.
Yeah. It was between 7th and 8th grade that puberty hit me. And then I actually put on muscle, and I was like, hey, wow, look at me. Ooh. But I remember I lost many a match in 7th grade. And then 8th grade, I was like, hey, I can win something. Wow, I could pick this person up and bend them in half. Whereas in 7th grade, I couldn't do that.
That was when you could do the splits and everything, too.
Yeah, way long ago when I was flexible. I still could be if I tried, but I don't try. I'm not going to try. But okay, so we've got the seeds of doubt. And I think, like, the reason I'm getting into this is not just I'm trying to psychoanalyze you, because there is a picture to be painted of your sport life. When, and I'm getting ahead of myself just a little bit, but I think everybody knows, when did you know that you had a medical condition that would put a timer on your sporting life? Or generally, maybe even your life at that point? When did you know?
So I hadn't known fully the extent of it, but I knew, like, when I first got diagnosed when I was 2, that I had kidney disease. I knew I went to doctors more often than other people. But it was 8th grade. I'm not in the wrestling photos for 8th grade wrestling because I had a kidney biopsy during that time over spring break. And the reason for that was when they discovered that protein was spilling into my urine. And so it was 8th grade that I was officially put on medication. I was put on enalapril, which helps prolong kidney function. If you look it up, it's a heart blood pressure medication, but it's used in this particular case on a smaller dose, which one of the side effects of it was cramping. And it was at that point that I think I really had the realization that, like, yo, this is really starting to actually affect me. whether I knew when it would come, the timetable was like, oh, it could be when he's 40, something like that, because they didn't really get a super clear diagnosis, because they diagnosed me with Alport syndrome. But Alport syndrome is a genetically carried condition, and there is absolutely no history of it in my family. Therefore, based on general understanding, they just kind of threw me in that box because it's the one that made sense. My mom had lupus, and she had, at this point, had her kidney transplant when I was in 5th grade. That was actually a traumatic day, but we don't talk about that yet. And so I understood like what all like kidney function affected and stuff like that. And so at that point, I kind of had this understanding that I have a detriment that a lot of the other athletes around me probably do not have. At least not the same thing. Different people have different things. And it was at that point, it was just kind of like, you know, this is what I have. I'm just going to do with what I can in that moment.
I see. And that was 8th grade?
Yeah.
That you really started, because you got the results back from the biopsy, I bet.
Correct.
And that's where they found the protein, and that's where they found things were not looking good.
Yeah. So they found the protein in my normal checkup because it appeared in the urine, and that's when they ordered the biopsy. And so during that time, I had a lot of meetings with a lot of different doctors down at Cincinnati Children's Hospital, which, by the way, fantastic hospital.
That's why my nudes are going to support them.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't realize that. Yeah.
But you didn't tell anybody?
No.
You didn't tell a soul?
No. The only people that knew were my family. And it was one of those things that it was just like, I don't want people to look at me any differently. I don't want people to feel sorry for me. I don't want people to give me an excuse. I'm me, and it's the only life that I know, and I don't want people to be like, oh, he's lesser than because of this. It's if you've ever heard the compliment, it's like, oh, you did this amazing thing in spite of this. It's not as much of a compliment as you think it is.
Yeah.
It's amazing that I accomplished that, period. Don't say it in spite of this.
Yeah.
That's just like, oh, look at you doing something great after you went through all of this shit. And it's like, fuck off. Just fuck off.
Yeah, I see. So do you think that any of this spilled over from when you were a child? Like, you knew something. As a kid, you don't know anything, but you know, you can pick up on vibes. You know, you can pick up on like what the rhythm is. You said yourself, you know, you went to doctors more than other kids. So do you think even as a kid you knew like something was different, and this seed of this mindset was there where you were like, I can do just as much as anyone else. Like, why wouldn't I be able to? Because my willpower is there to do it. That confidence is there. Do you think that had any effect on it?
It's possible. I think the other thing was I was always naturally gifted with motor skills and talent. So like I could run fast. When I played backyard football with the neighborhood kids, I was always the first picked. You know, different things along those lines. Like capture the flag, I was the first pick. We had rules where I couldn't be on the same team as other people because then we'd be too good. So there was a level of like respect for the skill set I had, but it was one of those things that, you know, my brother was less in tune in that front, and so I was always bigger and athletically superior in that way, but he always had a better work ethic than I did. And so it was something that my dad kind of talked about. It's like, if you had your brother's work ethic, you would destroy everybody. And so, you know, there's always this level of I've got to prove myself. I feel like that's a younger brother mentality too, is it's just like you got to prove yourself. And there were different times I got picked on for different things or excluded from stuff because I was younger. But it's possible it had to do with that, but really I think it just had to do with more of my personality. I always wanted to be the best.
Do you still feel that way today?
In everything that I do, I focus on putting my best foot forward. I recognize that, you know, being the best is subjective, and I look more in the sense of being the best version of myself. But yeah, when I'm competing against somebody in a sport, I will go to the ends to prove people wrong. There's a specific example that happened. I was up at Big Bear with a friend, and we were doing these challenges as a part of this grand D&D game. But we had physical challenges. So one of them was Twister. I had leg day the day before, and my legs were sore as hell. I didn't know it was Twister, so I volunteered for whatever this physical trial of strength was.
Nude Twister?
No.
Okay.
And it came down to the final two people, and my legs were shaking. Like, absolutely shaking, like I could collapse at any moment. And this other person is this smaller, extremely limber woman. Absolutely, everybody in the room is being
She's
like...
twisted like a pretzel around
Yes.
you. It's crazy.
Everyone in the room was like, oh, we already know who's going to win. It's not Tyler.
And sorry, I just got the visual of you. Oh, my legs are shit. Oh, no.
Well, like reaching.
Yeah, you're just like sprawling around like, oh, God.
But every time I heard that, I'm like, it's not going to be easy. I'm not going until I collapse.
Yeah.
I ended up winning because she picked up her hand in a rotation, moving from a spot, therefore disqualifying her because she moved her hand that was already designated for her.
And you called that out?
I didn't.
Okay. I was about to say, that'd be like, yes, I saw it. It went a millimeter.
In all honesty, I didn't immediately call it out. Somebody else did, but I said, oh no, you moved your hand, because I wanted to keep going.
I see.
The competitive spirit. I wanted to win because I overcame, not because
you
of a
wanted to
mistake.
win fairly.
Yes.
But a mistake is overcoming. It's a lack of concentration, so that is the thing.
But afterwards, I collapsed onto the mat, and I couldn't walk for like the next 10 minutes afterwards.
Yeah.
I had somebody help me get back to my seat at the table for what we were doing.
Nice.
And that's what I mean, like that competitive nature.
Oh, I know it. I saw it too when we were all riding these electric bicycles that I had up a mountain. Like I thought all of them had charge, but the one Tyler had didn't have charge. Not enough anyway to get all the way up at full power. So it ran out of battery. We're going up a mountain, so that's why we got the electric bicycles. And so we slow down because we're like, hey, we lost Tyler. Where is he? And we just see around the corner Tyler, like a minute later, just he's pedaling this bike. And if you know an electric bike, it doesn't have gears. It's a fixie, and it's not meant. Well, it's not fixie, but it's like a single gear, one speed. It's heavy. It's not meant to go uphill. He's powering this thing, just like, and it catches up with it, and we're like, oh, what happened? He's like, it ran out of battery. I'm like, what? If I had to pedal that up a mountain, I would never make it. I wouldn't make it. I've done that, and I give up, and I walk. Like, he's just pedaling up. So I think, like, some of that does rise to the surface very quickly. So it's all about trying to find the best ways to apply this competitive spirit to better yourself in life. But we're not there yet. We need to back up, because it's time for high school. The awkward years. Hormones, classes. For some reason, you're still taking Spanish, and we don't know why. You know, I never even learned a single word of Spanish. I'm in my 4th year of Spanish. Oh, what happened to me? I'm in band. Da-da-da-da-da. Football, suddenly there's junior varsity. There's all these varsity. What is varsity? I don't know what varsity means. Who knows?
I forgot I played football in junior high.
There's still no recess. I thought it might come back or something. Like junior high was just a fluke, but high school, still no recess.
Yeah.
What is the deal? What are you doing?
Well, freshman year was probably one of the hardest years. I was definitely an absolute ass. The bullying stuff came back.
The bullying came back.
Yep.
What?
Yep.
What happened?
I think it tied into the kidney biopsy and the struggles I was going through with the doctors and everything on that front.
Because I was in 8th grade and now in 9th grade. You came into this year with new mindset, and you had time for that to stew over summer break, right?
And on top of that, I was bullied in 7th and 8th grade on the football team because I got injured. They were saying that I faked my injury or I was this or that, and I had people basically diminishing what I was capable of and saying that I just was trying to be a part of the team and not actually play. And one of them was actually the quarterback of the team, which made it even worse because I was a receiver. And so freshman year, I ended up subluxing my right shoulder.
Sublux is a partial dislocation within the body.
Yeah. And so I got knocked out from that. And I also broke my toe that year during a wrestling meet. But in the other years, 7th grade, I had Osgood Slaughters, which is when your tendon is literally pulling off your shin bone. And yeah. And so like I kept getting injured in 7th grade, 8th grade, and then freshman year. They were just diminishing my capabilities. And the quarterback would purposely throw me terrible passes so that I couldn't catch a pass.
Is that true?
That's true.
Did he tell you that?
You can ask Tyler Sutherland. You can ask like a number of the players on that team recall.
Okay.
Distinctly. Because it was one of those things.
We can cut it out. Who was the quarterback? I didn't know that guy very well.
But the other Tyler was also a quarterback. And he also was one of our starting linebackers. So he had a cowboy collar, so he couldn't like turn his head at all.
Oh, yeah.
Which as a quarterback is impossible.
Yeah.
You need to be able to turn. But he was playing quarterback because he was playing linebacker. He couldn't like switch out his pads during which because we didn't have time.
Okay.
So he was thrown with this cowboy collar, and he was giving me better passes than the starting quarterback.
I'm going to assume that's a really good analogy of how much different it was.
Yes.
It also he could have been a terrible quarterback.
I mean,
Not Tyler, not other Tyler.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, he was decent, but he just threw the ball in the dirt and all this other stuff.
So, all in all, it's not a very good junior high experience. You're going through puberty, and you discover that you have a health thing that you are keeping a secret and you cannot tell anyone. Not even because you want to, like you don't want to tell anybody, but also like if you tell people, it'll feed into this idea where they'll be like, oh, well, you faking it. What's his kidneys? They just work or something like that. Or like, oh, okay, oh, poor you. So clearly you don't want that. So going into high school, you have a bullying phase where you're lashing out to other people, and also just like it's generally just a testosterone.
Well, and it's the fact that I'm being bullied, so to make myself feel better, I hurt other people because then I make them lesser than me.
Perpetuation of bullying.
And I've since apologized to it. Our friend Becca was one of the people I bullied terribly during freshman year of high school.
Apparently also during senior year. Someone just recently, when I was back home, said that Becca said that you bullied her in the senior year.
Senior year?
Senior year.
I don't remember anything.
I didn't hear this from Becca herself, so it was like I think Jesse said this, but we'll just blanket sweep it. Maybe he's mistaken because he wasn't even on our grade.
That's true. I don't recall that if that's the case, but I apologize to her almost every time I see her. So
maybe you should stop that. That'd be weird.
I stop now.
Okay, I was
like,
about to say every time
it was until like college. It was one of those things that I just felt really bad about it.
That's fair. But we are playing what sports in high school?
In high school, freshman year, I played football. I wrestled. I played baseball summer before freshman year. I also quit playing baseball because of bullying, and I also had a terrible coach my last season outside of school baseball. And when I went to tryouts, the same bullies from the football team were at those tryouts.
There's just a gang just snapping their fingers like, hey, there's old Tyler Shine. He's an asshole. I hate that guy. No, nothing. Oh, is this
pretty much
is
what
this
it
the
was
song
like.
that they were singing? Oh no,
No,
I'm sorry. He's starting to cry.
It's not
Oh,
an
tears are
actual
coming out.
No, I went to one thing and I was just like, I'm done with baseball. I don't want to do that.
Yeah, fair enough.
And that's when I made the decision to start playing water polo sophomore year.
Okay. But water polo was a game changer, to bring a sport phrase in here. But it was a very different experience because I know where you went with water polo. But what was water polo like going into that?
Well, I had done intramural water polo, so I'd known all of the water polo team and the coaches, and the coach expressed numerous times how he wanted me to play. I played goalie in intramural, and mostly because I didn't have a great swim strength, I'd get tired pretty quick, and I don't float in water, so I'd sink. And so my brother put me in goal, and because of baseball, I had a cannon for an arm, and so I would just nail outlet passes when somebody had a fast break. They'd score goals. I somehow blocked some of the best players on the team, oftentimes with my face, but we don't need to get into that. That was not a painless experience.
You got a
we'll
6'6" wingspan, but a 6'7" face span.
Yeah.
Just your nose, just
No, I had a knack for reacting and understanding where the ball was going to go. I don't know why. I just did.
But specifically with your face.
Yeah, you're throwing your body around. It worked. And so I was convinced by people in our grade who I'd kind of become friends with because they were friends with my brother and the coaches and the older kids to go play water polo. Going from the toxic football environment to that was tremendous. I felt like I belonged. I felt like, it was like a family. You were encouraged. You worked together. Nobody put anybody down. Nobody beat up on anybody else. It was, how can we get better together?
That's great. That sounds wonderful.
And that's ultimately why I switched and played. And I feel like is the biggest reason we had success with the team that we had is it was like a brotherhood.
Yeah.
We had each other's backs when it was in season, even outside in the school. Somebody come down the hallway and say some off comment towards one of us, somebody else would respond, making fun of them in return.
That's great. That just goes to show just like what cooperation and, actual teamwork can do for a person. Do you think that when you were playing water polo and you actually found this group, that it helped you deviate from your bullying ways and then become more confident in yourself?
I think it wasn't necessarily water polo, but water polo probably helped. Sophomore year, I also lost Craig. It was Craig Starkey. He died in a car accident on his senior trip. He had just graduated. He was a mentor of mine through Scouts. And he was one of the people I had never seen him be mean to anybody. And I had always looked up to him. And in that same year, my grandfather died, my dad's dad. And he also was a person that was just incredibly kind. No matter how many goldfish he gave me and then they ended up dying and getting flushed down the toilet, he had another goldfish for me growing up.
Maybe you should have stopped getting goldfish after a while. I don't know to be mean or anything.
No, but like the amount of kindness that those two showed me and the amount of patience and everything were the two people I looked up to the most. And they passed away, Craig between freshman and sophomore year, and then during sophomore year, my grandfather. And it made me really introspective of like, I look up to these people and I want to emulate. I want to be like them, but I'm not that.
Yeah.
And so I looked at myself and I started making changes. And then my environment changed. I felt more accepted, more belonging. Like it probably compounded that in of itself to the point where it changed me into the path to who did I want to be? Because I didn't like myself. I can tell you straight up, as mean as I was to everybody else and all this different stuff, I did not like myself during that time. And I occasionally still struggle with that, but it's one of those things that this made me feel a lot better. It made me start to see in myself the things that I respected and I admired and work through and pull those things out. And I started to enjoy myself more. I started to not, hear all the hate and everybody who said negative things about me, and started hearing the good things. And I started proving everybody wrong. Water polo was one of those sports that, I was naturally gifted at to a degree, but I had to work really hard to understand that sport.
Because you were negatively buoyant. You sank.
Yeah.
That cannot be overstated how much of a detriment that is to swimming.
Yes.
Some people float. Some people don't.
The other thing is I never swam competitively. Everyone else on the team had been doing swim meets and swimming and all this stuff. I didn't know how to do a flip turn. That was a part of the thing. Like, I had to work and work and work. I had to learn how to tread water properly. Every practice, I was put through something I had never done before. And I was also doing a water sport. Yeah, I could swim. I was thrown in the pool when I was little and I could swim. Cool. But I mostly played land sports. The muscles and everything was distinctly different. It was just a whole new world of sport that I'd never done. And really had to push myself and learn and have that work ethic that my brother had to suddenly become good, really good, and really good at this sport.
Yeah. Interesting.
And then, of course, sophomore year was my first year. Junior year, I was the starting goalie. I got an all-state honorable mention award. And then senior year, the whole team won state. And I moved from goalie to field to play whole defense, which my wrestling skills came into play, going against bigger guys and using pressure points and body control.
Put them to sleep and they just roll down beneath the water.
Yes, I did the, what's that Star Trek?
Vulcan nerve pinch.
That's it, the Vulcan.
And then they'll never sing again.
Yep,
that's how it goes. But even though all the wonders of puberty and water polo and realizing how cool girls are and whatnot, and relationships and friendships and stuff, that's normal high school for most people.
Yeah,
you had an underlying thing through this entire experience. A ticking clock, literally, quite literally a ticking clock. Because as you get closer to the end of high school, you get ever closer to this moment where you have to have a life-changing surgery.
Well, I mean, even before that senior year, my mom, we thought she was going to die.
Yeah.
She had to have another kidney transplant. Her previous one got rejected, and so we had to wait and hope for a cadaver donor, and we miraculously got one from a 2-year-old in San Francisco that died in a car accident.
So it was a double whammy. Double whammy of seriousness, all kidney related.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where being that young, and yes, even still a senior in high school or a junior high school or whatever, like it's still incredibly young. Like no life experiences beyond the system of school and sports and whatever little bit of extracurricular stuff you can get. So to go from this very normal experience that a lot of us can relate to in terms of like, we tried sports, we did sports, we excelled at sports, stuff like that. There's still this underlying thing of this problem. So wherever you would like to start, whether it is with your mom or with your surgery, because at some point you had to admit it to people. You had to tell people about it, because the thing about being on a team is like you gotta take time for yourself, and people need to know why. When was that moment?
So the moment wasn't until I actually went into chronic kidney failure in sophomore year of college.
Mm-hmm.
But I was affected by it. In water polo, I cramped up quite a bit playing goalie, especially in long games like double overtime and stuff like that. But it wasn't until I went into chronic kidney failure and it was like, oh, I need a kidney now.
Mm-hmm.
I went, and Wade was one of the first people I told. He was hanging out with my friend Jared.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, hey guys, first off, you don't have to get tested or anything like that, and I'm not asking you to, but I want to tell you the situation I'm in right now.
Mm-hmm.
It was on my 20th birthday. My doctor called me and was like, hey, we can't wait for a transplant. You have to go on dialysis. But before that was the discussion of what was going to happen. But that was the distinct moment that I actually started talking. And I was going down to visit Wade down at UC.
Mm-hmm.
And we went down there and I told them what was going on. And I just, I filled them in, told them everything that was happening. Jared had known I had some medical stuff going on and that I had kidney issues, but he didn't know what the severity was. And that was because my mom had told his mom, because his mom was a nurse. And so it was on my 20th birthday, I went down there and I told him that I had to go on dialysis and I'm going into chronic kidney failure and I very well could die.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, that was when I first started telling people.
Mm-hmm. So it wasn't until like college. And so you transitioned from high school sports to college sports, because obviously you were going to do that. Did you pick your college based on like the sport program?
Yeah, I picked it based on the sport administration program. I also picked it based on who would let me walk onto the football team. Because it was a dream of mine growing up to always play college ball.
Okay.
It was still a dream of mine to make it to the NFL, and I still believed in that dream.
Mm-hmm.
So I walked onto the football team. I made it. And freshman year, I tore all of the tissue in the bottom of my left foot.
Ow.
Yeah, they thought I had torn my Lisfranc.
What's Frank?
Lisfranc is the ligament that keeps your toes from splaying out like starfish.
Oh.
They keep them together. It's fun.
Fun.
Yeah. Luckily, I didn't tear that, but that was a freak accident that happened freshman year.
Uh-huh.
And then, sophomore year, I went into chronic kidney failure. But I chose Wilmington because it was close. I chose it because they had a good sport admin program. I also had scholarship offers there. I actually had a scholarship competition to win the full ride. Needless to say, I didn't win. But even just by attending that, you got an $1,000 scholarship.
Helpful.
And so I ended up going to Wilmington for that. But I also was able to play club water polo there. I actually had the potential, junior year, I was being looked at by college scouts in water polo. But because I didn't swim competitively, they didn't really look at me too closely. And then once I switched positions, senior year, they disappeared. So I focused on football and the potential to play water polo and go there. And then staying close to home because of, then I won't have to worry about switching doctors or anything like that.
Mm-hmm. That all makes sense. And so what really sticks with me is this drive to prove yourself. Because we've talked about this before. We've actually talked about this on this podcast of you pre and post this surgery in your football team. So we need not get into those details. I don't remember the specific episode that it was, but you can probably find people telling you on the Discord if you want to find out what that is. But what really is the through thread of this, even beyond sporting in your life, our friendship, you coming out to your LA, and I'm not calling you out or anything, I'm just saying it as an observation, is the desire to prove yourself and the desire to exceed at what you believe is your best abilities. And you have a certain standard of quality that you hold yourself to, and there can be a certain frustration when that standard cannot be met through pure physical exertion or pure willpower. And that can lead to a lot of insecurities and stuff like that. But also, I want to emphasize, it's not a bad thing. This desire to exceed and this desire to prove oneself and this desire to push forward no matter what the circumstances is a very, very valuable trait. It's an incredibly powerful one. It can also be incredibly powerful in the opposite direction by bringing you down just as strongly. But I think it's one of your best traits. No matter what the circumstances of your life and whatever has happened in your life and where it's led and the things that you have overcome, and I'm not saying this okay, you've overcome them, look at how it is. The things that you have challenged are simply by show of force challenges that many people would have broken against. And I think like this sheer determination and willpower and fierce competitive spirit is part of what makes you such an admirable person. And I think like it's one of the things that I respect about you the most. And it does originate, a lot of it, cultivated at least in the sporting world. And that's why your life deserves a two-parter, because it is extraordinary.
Thanks.
You're
Like,
welcome.
that is also a struggle. Accepting compliments.
That's fine. Doesn't mean I'm not going to say it, because I'm very good at talking.
No, but you know, I look back at my life, and I talk about this all the time. Nobody gets anywhere without help.
Mm-hmm.
And being around friends like you, and when like your AdSense went away and stuff like that, why I was so adamant about if it's what you want to do, push and continue doing it.
Mm-hmm.
You bring into my mind things that I never thought about throughout this entire process of this particular episode. And where did it originate? Where did it come from? And trying to find the root of it and bearing down into that. You're right. I think it does come from sport. I think it does come from the environment that I was put in, the fact that I was naturally gifted at sport, but I still had something to prove.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously the injuries and the illness and everything else that happened. Like, you know this, I had 3 knee surgeries. I've torn all the tissue in the bottom of my left foot. I've subluxed my right shoulder, broken both my big toes, you know, and on top of that, you know, the kidney transplant, the dialysis and everything on that front. Like, I wouldn't be here if I wasn't about pushing and overcoming.
Mm-hmm. And then as a last thing, this isn't a call out, but I did notice it. You tweeted something, and
Yeah.
this is going to date the episode a little bit, but I wanted to bring it up. And this is all because it is part of this quote. This is the tweet. My biggest goal of 2023 is to finally showcase what I can do. And I really am curious, what is that referring to?
For me, it's referring to a lot of things that I haven't been able to show, a lot of things that I haven't done yet. I wrote music years ago. That's one of the things I want to do that. There's a book I need to write. I'm trying to hold myself accountable for the number of things that I think I'm capable of putting out there. I'm capable of having success in. And also, it's a shout out on this podcast itself to push this podcast higher and further and be better and improve every single episode. But more than anything, it's about putting myself out there in a way that it's just, this is me, this is what I can do, deal with it. Not like in a negative way, but like, you know, make a name for myself.
That's fair. That's very fair. I admire that. And I wish you the best of luck with that. Mm-hmm. How many pages have you written?
So far, none.
There's still a lot of year left.
There is. And I can't count on that. I just need to do.
Yes. But that will bring us to a close for Tyler Sport Life. Thank you, Tyler, for sharing. Part 2. Part 2. I want to point that out. Part 2. We all don't have this incredible sport life that you do. However, it was very engaging, and I love listening to it.
Well, thank you for hosting.
Of course, it's
and
always
interviewing and pointing in a direction always that I never expect.
That's what I try to do here. That's what I try to do. Mostly because I forget what happened in the last one.
Well, you brought it in a different way. You approach it in a different manner than I would, right? Because I didn't talk about the sports I played or what I did in those sports or anything like that. You talked about me in the underlying with the sport as the background and what instilled in it. And that's unique to me.
Because that's how I view sports. I view sports as weaving into someone's life. It's not a singular part of anything. Even like a professional athlete, sport is not their entirety of being. They have a life outside of sport, whether it's a family, whether it's friends, whether it's going like splurging money in Vegas, whatever it is. That's the other facet of their life. We all are multifaceted creatures, and we all have different parts. Because at the baseline, a human experience is simply, or life experience on this planet is, you get born, you eat poop, you make more, and then you die. So everything in between those are just the things, the flavor, the spices that we interject and interweave into those experiences that we all share.
Yes,
right?
You eat poop.
No, there were commas. There
was not a pause.
No, you don't need a pause to have a comma. Listen, I'm going to teach you some writing. You eat poop and die. You eat poop, make more, and die. And the Oxford comma is in there too, before the and. Anyway, that's all the time we have for this episode. Next episode will be Tyler's love life. where we explore his love life in excruciating detail.
No, that is not. No.
His explorations of self, his
No.
reading of the Kama Sutra at way too young an age, his trips to the Philippines that no one knows about.
What?
We'll get into all the juicy details. My name is Markiplier. This is Tyler.
Yeah, that's me. Go check out the podcast. Follow it everywhere. Like it, whatever. Also, go check out the merch. Hopefully, new merch is in the store now. It's being worked on right now as we record. But go to store.gmfst.com and check that out.
Get your eye finger hat.
Eye finger sports hat.
Shirt, banner, all the goodies. I'm not wearing the hat right now, but pretend like I am. Get it. Store.gmfst.com.
I got it. I got it.
Get it.
I got it.
Buy it.
I got it.
Buy.
Bye. But that was very interesting learning about Tyler's. I knew he had like some kidney stuff, but I didn't know for the full extent. But that sucks, man. Being on dialysis, I don't even know what that. I remember. Who was it in our family that had to go on dialysis? Was it? I think it was my grandma's sister's son. And he survived, thank God. But I think I remember them talking about it to me when I was like, 12, 11, I want to say. That's where the word dialysis, that's why it clicks to me. That sucks. But me and Tyler have the same aspirations. I'm making more YouTube videos. See here. I'm also writing a book. I'm on the 7th chapter out of 14. So I'm halfway there. Sorry. And I want to lose 50 pounds. So I want to be more physical. I want to be more active. So listening to this podcast actually helps me with that. Knowing what to eat, what not to eat, how to exercise, and so on and so forth. But yeah, Tyler, I have more respect for you as the master of sports, but I still want to see that degree. Still want to see it. You still need to show it. Proof. We got some A-list proof-ish, but proof of the degree. Not of you playing sports, of the degree. Until we see that, you are just a really cool sports guy who had a hard time doing sports because of problems with his body. And you and me have that in common. You with your kidney, me with my diabetes. I think that's similar in some capacity. But anyways, if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And let me know, if you're still interested of me doing exercising while, especially on this podcast, listening to this podcast, just exercising to them. Because I'm thinking about it. I'm actually thinking about doing it for next week. Because next week's gonna be towards my birthday. Yeah, it'll be February 2nd. Yeah, on February 2nd I'm going to try to do it. But for today, you just have me knitting the vest. I actually, if you see, very awfully, but you can see me doing the pattern of the dashes of like this. I can't pull up the book because it's too far away, but like the crisscross like diamond plating, crocheted across it, and it's going all the way up. I'm going to do the whole row, even if it's like this one little corner bit that's been done. But yeah, I'm almost done with this row. I just need to finish this purl, do the finishing knit, and then I gotta do this side, and then literally this part is done. Fucking finally. And then all I gotta do is the collar, the design, a little bit of a sleeve, and then I can give it to Mom, hopefully before her birthday. cross fingers. But I'll see you guys later. This has been M.A.D.D.Y. And with Tyler, I have more respect for you as a person who does sports and just in general. Okay? I'll see you guys later. Peace.